With the dawn of a new millennium, the U.S. border represents the front line in matters of security, defense, and immigration. The federal government has sought to move quickly with a program called the Secure Border Initiative. A large part of that plan was to build a facility capable of retaining and processing large numbers of illegal aliens from countries other than Mexico. The idea was to end the ineffective catch and release that so often found the same subjects immediately trying to cross again. Just 83 days after U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement signed a deal with Willacy County, Texas, a new 53-acre double-fence facility took in its first busloads of detainees. The team in charge of its design, finance, and construction was up to the task. They all had been there before.
Kendall Finney, president of Hale Mills Construction, called me and said that we had a great opportunity in Willacy County where we had already done 2 previous projects, and he asked me if I would like to be involved in the design and construction of a 2,000-bed detention facility for immigration and customs enforcement. And he said, but here's the kicker, we have to do it in 90 days. And I said, I'd love to.
Engineer Chris Cuney had a similar reaction.
Well, it was exciting because we knew that this was going to be a project that had probably never been done in the state of Texas or anywhere in this short a time frame. If it was a normal project with a client that we hadn't worked for, we would have thought they were crazy.
She told me everything in that first phone call, and we got 90 days. We've got to get a design out. We've got to get it out to the subs. Everybody's waiting on it.
Willacy County and county seat Raymondville, Texas, were no strangers to these sorts of projects or the group who promised to make it happen. But there were still some doubts.
I want to tell you that I was really apprehensive about this, and especially with the short time frame that it was supposed to be constructed, I felt like it wasn't attainable.
When they decided that they wanted to do it in such a short time, I just didn't think it was going to happen.
It was clearly time to bust sod, but there was one small matter first.
I seen a cotton field. I pulled up here less than 5 weeks ago, and there was a cotton field here.
I chased the farmer down at the coffee shop to ask him how much his crop was worth, and so we bought a crop field that morning and actually started construction that afternoon.
We paid a lot of money for that cotton.
While Cuney was hunting down the farmer in Raymondville, back in Dallas, Michael Harling was tracking down something pretty important as well: financing.
It takes longer to put the financing in place than the plans for the facility, so that we were going down dual tracks or 2 separate tracks where the developers and the design builders and construction people were already building the project while we were putting together the approvals for the financing.
Well, the biggest challenge was knowing that we had such a short time frame. The site was fairly low. It was almost in a bowl. And we ended up raising the site 3 feet on average. In some spots, we had to raise 5 feet. So once we got that done, we focused on the first 2 pods to get those ready so that we could start forming the foundation, which actually occurred 2 days after we started on site.
Typically, our facilities start at about 500 beds in about 12 to 14 months. So you're doing a project that's 4 times as big in 1/4 the time. You could not do this out of conventional construction. It would be impossible. You couldn't throw enough people at it. There's a term that I really hate, and it's called think outside the box. We had to think outside the box.
That unconventional thinking brought into play a new building technology for the housing units. Plans were made to construct 10 sprung structures capable of housing up to 200 detainees each. The sprung structure utilizes a fire and tear-resistant UV-protected panel. Each panel contains a sealed 8-inch insulation barrier. Panels are erected between extruded aluminum I-beams. Each structure carries a 30-year warranty and is designed to withstand sustained winds of 120 miles per hour. The pods have 4 separate housing areas and day rooms, plus classrooms and administrative offices. There are 200 tons of air conditioning and heating per unit. These clear span units offer economy, space, and perhaps most important, speed.
This building was not there yesterday. It came in on a truck yesterday morning. They worked yesterday and last night and erected that one. And then they've been working on this one today.
The project was broken down into 2 stages. Despite the 90-day deadline for the entire project, the first phase was due open at day 40. That meant that 500 beds had to be online inside of 4 of the planned 10 pods.
A lot of times we were drawing as they're working. I mean, you know, I was drawing things as they were out there building them.
See, we have a shift that goes from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening. Then we have one that goes from 6 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning. They work in 12-hour shifts.
And of course, it's a new type of construction for us, so it was kind of a learning thing for everybody involved. You know, there's not a whole lot of building code on that type of construction.
We asked a lot of questions, and they were very helpful. Everybody from engineers to the construction were always helpful in telling us exactly what's going on.
While construction was certainly at a brisk pace on site, efforts were being made to tie in the facility's enormous amount of utilities to a city that not long before had nearly the same population.
And we had to build an inordinate amount of off-site infrastructure, including almost 2 miles of water line and 2 miles of sanitary sewer line.
In addition, crews had to manufacture a 250,000-gallon water storage tank, upgrade 2 city lift stations, install 300 phone lines, and cut under an interstate highway. Acquisition of 10,000 linear feet of easements had to be secured, including one from a deed holder now living 2,300 miles away in Vermont. Well, at least the weather shouldn't be a problem in sunny South Texas.
And it's rained continuously, seems like. So we're in here cutting out the mud and putting dry dirt back in, starting over, and just constantly moving the mud out of the way.
Despite 45 rain days, the project stayed on time and on budget. As Phase 1 neared completion, the feds stepped up the pressure.
We had to have the first 500 beds open in 45 days. And then once those beds were open, it came down from the Department of Homeland that they actually needed additional pods every week. And nobody blinked an eye. That's what we did.